This year, Konami celebrated its 50th anniversary and surprised us all by announcing 3 compilation collections as part of that celebration. Arcade Classic Anniversary Collection, Contra Anniversary Collection, and my personal favorite, Castlevania Anniversary Collection, all saw release this year on the Nintendo Switch Eshop. And as a fan of classic Konami games, I was super excited to get my hands on these titles. To be honest with you, because of Konami's recent behavior as game developers, this seemed like an absolute miracle that we were even getting these in the first place. Let's hope that it doesn't take this company hitting its 50th birthday to shower us with this kind of fanfare again, because we see these compilation collections as a great opportunity to bring even more titles out that we love. Here are 5 more collections that we would like to see Konami bring to the Switch. Okay Konami, you have to know that you were just whetting us Castlevania fans' appetites with only one Castlevania collection, centered around the most classic titles in the franchise. I love Castlevania, and I know I'm not alone here. The Castlevania series offers multiple genres within the franchise that could each easily be a collection of their own. They could finish up the 2D action platformer style of games by offering a collection that consists of Kid Dracula, the Game Boy port, put the arcade port of Haunted Castle in the collection it belongs to, Castlevania Chronicles, have Castlevania Rondo of Blood and Dracula X on the same collection, Castlevania Legends, and finish it off with the 2009 Lost to WiiWare hit, Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth. What about the equally as loved Metroidvania style Castlevania games? Kick it off with Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Throw in the 3 Game Boy Advance Metroidvanias and the DS trilogy of Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and Order of Ecclesia. I'd pay $60 easy for that collection. Lump all those 3D games together, and boom, another collection. I don't want to make your collections for you, Konami, but you could release them however you wanted. Just know that there's demand for these titles, and you don't have to stop at just one. For some reason, with each passing Nintendo Direct, I kept waiting for Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain to be announced for the Switch. I don't know why I've always had this prediction, but I've always been proven wrong anyway. Maybe it's because I know the PS3 version is in existence. The Fox engine certainly seems scalable enough. One would think that Konami would get a better return from their investment with a Switch port than they would from producing Metal Gear Solid Survive, a game I recalled nobody asking for. I don't think it's too little too late for Metal Gear Solid 5, but at this point I think it'd be more plausible for them to re-release a bunch of re-releases in the form of 2011's Metal Gear Solid The HD Collection. I had this title back on my 360 at the time, and that collection blew my mind. This title had Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid The Peace Walker, and my all-time favorite Metal Gear game, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. The only thing this title was missing back when I played it was the first Metal Gear Solid game. So guess what I did after I devoured the entire collection? I dusted off my GameCube to play a little Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes, which in my opinion is the best way to experience the story of the first Solid game. I realized in order to bring it to a new collection, it would have to be exclusively on the Switch. Unless Nintendo was feeling generous, as that title was co-created by Silicon Knights and Konami, with Silicon Knights being commissioned by Nintendo to create the game exclusively on the Nintendo GameCube. With Silicon Knights going bankrupt back in 2014, who knows the obstacles Konami would have to go through to bring it back in any form. I'm sure a collection like that would do well, but I can promise you one thing, there would be at least one customer. Me. Ganbare Goemon. The only title I played in this series was the SNES title Legend of the Mystical Ninjas. We love that game here at the Weekend Moblin, so much so that Moblin team member Aaron did a whole video on it. You can check it out in the video description below. I never wanted it to end there though, it's just that a handful of these titles only ever made it outside of Japan, as Konami believed these titles were just a little too Japanese for a Western audience. I remember Mystical Ninjas starring Guilmon for the N64 catching my eye though. It's just that when you're a kid and you don't exactly have the money to buy every game that you want to try, and every time the opportunity came up to request it for my birthday or Christmas, it got buried by the Diddy Kong Racing, Super Smash Bros., and all things Pokemon at the time. Here's an idea, Konami. Put both of those aforementioned titles in a collection, plus the other 2 Western releases. There was the Game Boy game under the same name, Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, and the other N64 title called Goemon's Great Adventure. Maybe take it just one step further by localizing a handful of some of the other titles in the series. I think a couple of the Famicom releases would do, and the Super Nintendo sequel to The Legend of the Mystical Ninjas that we never got to play would be great. Let's show Konami they were wrong. There is a market for those titles here in the West. Just give us a chance to prove it. The crap really started hitting the fan for Konami when they canceled a title by the name of Silent Hills, a dream game. The Silent Hills franchise's rebirth. In 2014, a demo was dropped on the PlayStation 4 by the name of PT, or Playable Teaser. When you beat the demo, it was revealed to you to be Silent Hill, a collaboration between Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear fame and horror movie royalty Del Toro, and the game featured American actor Norman Reedus. The demo was downloaded over 1 million times, and it was trending over other mediums like YouTube, with Sony claiming it had been viewed over 30 million times. I don't know if fans will ever be able to forgive the cancellation of that game, especially with the controversy surrounding the departure of Kojima around the time of this. It doesn't mean that the Silent Hill franchise is not worth a second chance, though. Show a new generation of gamers why these titles stood toe-to-toe with the Resident Evil franchise at the time. How about 2 collections here? The first one containing 1 through 4, and the second one featuring Origins, Homecoming, Shattered Memories, and Downpour. Maybe just put them all in one collection and charge $60. That's about the price of 2 Resident Evil ports on the Nintendo Switch. After starting this list, I started thinking to myself, maybe I should ask for 10 Konami collections. No, 20. The reason fans have gotten so upset with this company is because they hold so many IPs that fans find near and dear to their hearts. How could have I forgotten the Hudson Soft acquired IP Bomberman? Just any collection as long as it includes Bomberman 64. How about the classic Gradius franchise? Bring out the dance pad for Dance Dance Revolution. Where else are we gonna play the Mario mix? About some of the licensed properties they handled. The arcade games like The Simpsons, X-Men, and G.I. Joe. The console games like The Goonies, Tiny Toons, and Animaniacs. Oh, am I forgetting one? No, I was just saving it for our last spot. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games of the early years set side by side with the likes of Mario Brothers and Ninja Gaiden on store shelves. They would even grace the covers of Nintendo's flagship magazine, Nintendo Power. See, back then I don't even think it was a question as to what made a game IP. Was it an original property created for the exclusive use of video games? No, because the standard for video game characters is Mario, and that guy had his own cartoon and a breakfast cereal. Okay then, the games had to come first. Did you know that the Donkey Kong arcade game, the first game ever to feature Mario, started off as a Popeye the Sailor Man game? When that game was canceled, Shigeru Miyamoto had to change the game around to feature original characters so all their work wouldn't go to waste. Now there's a weird butterfly effect moment for you. Listen, there are some exceptions for licensed games. But back then, Capcom and Konami were taking those cartoon properties and spinning gold. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles property was some of that gold. Not all of them were the same quality, but hey, chances are if you owned an NES and you loved the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, then you know you had to own the first TMNT game on your NES. Yes, that game was tough as nails, super cheap, and that underwater dam was the bane of our existence. But you just had to keep punishing yourself so you could hear that sweet chiptune soundtrack. Then there's the beat 'em ups that were probably the most popular for the Turtles games. The arcade game was great, the NES port was subpar. Just give us the arcade one. It's already been re-released once already, after all. The other NES game in this style, the Manhattan Project, was also great. In my opinion, it's the best Turtles game on that platform. Then there's the big ones. The Sega Genesis classic, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Hyperstone Heist. I was hoping that this title would be part of the Sega Genesis Mini, but maybe with this collection, people can see why it was a must-own for anybody with the Genesis back in the day. Of course, there's the big one. They could do the SNES port or the arcade. I don't care. Just don't give us a port of Reshelled instead. That's right, I'm talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. This is my absolute favorite beat-em-up of all time. And it's most people's favorite turtle game of all time from what I can gauge. What even is this collection without it? If you've never experienced this one for yourself, then a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles collection would be the perfect way to do it. I know asking for this entire collection is a stretch, but 4-player online multiplayer, please? The Game Boy had some of the best turtle games on it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 Back from the Sewers took the platforming style from the original NES release and mixed in some of the elements from the beat-em-up games and made it even better. Now my favorite in the trilogy was the third installment, and it was the most distinguished of the three. Before Symphony of the Night would even come around to create the term Metroidvania, Konami was already doing it. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 Radical Rescue was an exploratory platformer if I ever played one, and a pretty good one at that. I know this game is labeled as hard, but come on, it's manageable. I beat the game when I was 6. Besides, it's a lot more fair than the first NES game, that's for sure. Oh yeah, and Konami, I guess you can put Tournament Fighters in the collection, but if you're gonna do that, make sure it's the Super Nintendo port. On this entire list, I know this collection is the least likely, as its property has switched hands twice since the classic titles were made, and Ubisoft currently holds the license to make these games. But it hasn't stopped Konami before, or Ubisoft. I'm not really sure who got these projects started, but there was the Virtual Console release of the first title, which did have a premium price to cover all the licensing fees between all the parties. And then there's the arcade re-release on the Xbox Live and PlayStation Store. If you're gonna go through the hassle of releasing one, why not release all of these titles? What Konami collections would you like to see? Tell us in the comment section below. And if you haven't already done so, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. We would really appreciate it. And for more on Konami collections, stay tuned to the Weekend Moblin.